We've all faced one, a threshold, a point of decision, a moment of choice. Do we stay or do we go? What awaits us on the other side? Will we cross the line from guilt to freedom, fear to faith, from doubt to trust, from darkness to light, from death to life? So you're here at the threshold. What will you do?
I like that little image of standing there at a threshold, you know. There's an awful lot of decisions to be made, you know. Am I going to go in? Am I going to step into this room not knowing what's going to happen? So we're going to talk about making choices. And we can go to my scripture there. We're going to read kind of a lengthy passage from Deuteronomy 30. Now listen. Today I'm giving you a choice between life and death, between prosperity and disaster. For I command you this day to love the Lord your God and to keep his commands, decrees, and regulations by walking in his ways. If you do this, you will live and multiply. And the Lord your God will bless you and the land you are about to enter and occupy. But if your heart turns away and you refuse to listen, and if you're drawn away to serve and worship other gods, then I warn you now that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live a long, good life in the land you're crossing the Jordan to occupy. Today, I've given you the choice between life and death, between blessings and curses. Now I call on heaven and earth to witness the choice you make. Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live. You can make this choice by loving the Lord your God, obeying him, and committing yourself firmly to him. This is the key to your life. And if you love and obey the Lord, you will live long in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So is recorded the last words of Moses. As Moses spoke to the Israelites before he died, and they went on to enter the promised land. At this point, they've been walking around in the wilderness for 40 years. They've faced and suffered all kinds of things, hunger and thirst, and just probably they were tired. But now the time had come to claim what God had long promised to them. Moses, of course, if you know the story, and I won't get into that part of it, but because of his disobedience, he would not enter the promised land. But that didn't deter him from speaking to the Israelites, to this people that God had, in a way, made him responsible for. He had been the one, through God's power, that had led them out of a life of slavery. And now they were standing here waiting to go and claim their reward. And he wanted to make sure that they stayed in the graces of God. And in the end there, he gave 3 different speeches. And this was at the end of the last speech. And so I think it was very important as to what he was trying to get across. He outlines what God's like, what they should do to stay in the favor of God. So I want to look this morning at some things that Moses said and some things about God that I think that we can learn from. Go to the next slide there, please. God is a God of choices. I told you there was going to be a test, didn't I? Here's the thing that most of us don't understand. God only requires a simple choice. It's very simple. We take the Bible and we try to dissect it out, and we try to learn this, and we got people that know Greek and Latin and Hebrew to study God's Word and you know, get down to what this word means or what that word, but it's a simple choice. And it's not really one of those choices. You ever made a big decision in life, you know, and you sit and you ponder on it and you think about it, you worry about it. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? And you think about the consequences a lot. But this is fairly simple. It's a simple choice between life and death. Problem occurs because many of us don't know how to make this choice. Some people believe this is a one-time commitment. Well, let's see. This is Sunday, July the 21st, 2019. This would be a good day for me to get saved, right? It's a one-time commitment. Some hold to this. That I surrendered my life. I was baptized when I was 18. And so, in effect, I am saved. People love to throw that word around. And some maintain that because I was saved, because I am saved, I have made the choice to follow God and have a relationship with Jesus. Now that's kind of like a situation I have in my life. And I'll tell you about this. Way back, many, many years ago, I lived in Florida. And I still worked in the dealership. And I was worked for Ford Motor Company as a service technician in a dealership. And you know, you go to all this kind of training and stuff, you know, to get up to the upper levels and make the most money, I guess they think, and whatever. But anyway, I achieved the highest level in Ford Motor, and it was called Senior Master Technician. I have a nice little trophy in my office if you would care to stop by and see it. But at that time, when you achieved the Senior Master level, one of the things that you got to do was Ford Motor Company sent you on a cruise. So we went on a 4-day cruise out of Florida and went down in the Gulf and went over to Cozumel. Pretty nice little deal, pretty nice little gift. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is I met this fellow that was sitting at our table there, and he's from Indiana, and his name is James Neal. Same last name, just different spelling. He spells it as N-E-I-L-L. Hope he doesn't see this, so trying to sue me or anything. But he and his wife, we found out we're Christian people, and we cultivated a friendship that lasted one day. It was a 4-day cruise, you know, so you didn't have a whole lot of time to. He and I have now been friends on Facebook for probably close to 20 years. And other than the occasional like or a post that I might comment on about one of his grandkids, we don't know a whole lot about each other. I know he has a little grandson that has something wrong with it. I know that a few years ago he almost died when he got spinal meningitis. But we don't know a lot about each other. But our relationship is a whole lot like the relationship that many people have with Jesus Christ. They started a friendship many years ago. There was that one day when they put that foot forward, came plodding down to the pastor, and gave their life and their heart to Jesus. But then it never progressed past just being like a casual acquaintance. How does Moses tell the people to interact with God? He says in verse 16, "For I command you this day to love the Lord your God, to keep his commands, his decrees, and his regulations by walking in his ways." That implies to me a continual following, a lasting commitment, not just a one-day, a one-shot proclamation. Psalm 37:5 says, "Commit everything you do to the Lord." Everything you do to him. Trust him, and he will help you. Everything that we do, we commit to God. Every last part of your life, you commit to him. It's not, well, I don't have anything else to do this weekend, so I think I'll go to church. It's not, I pay the pastor to do ministry for me. It's not, I have some money left over after paying bills, so I'll put some money in the plate this week. Moses said, walk in the ways of God. That's continual. That's every day. That's every day for the rest of your life. Second thing we need to know about God. God is a God of revenge. You know, you cross God, you're not going to like the outcome. I'm sorry. He's not some big teddy bear in the sky. In Deuteronomy 30:17-18 says, "But if your heart turns away and you refuse to listen, if you're drawn away to serve and worship other gods, then I warn you, you will be destroyed." This is the part that we don't like to think about. As I said, we want God to be a big teddy bear. We want to come up and hug on him and love on him. And man, he's just great. And he is. He loves you. He loves you more than anything else. He loves you so much that he sent his son to die for you. How much more could he love you? But we hesitate to think about a God that will destroy us because of the things that we do. In Exodus 34:14, it says, "Do not worship any other God." No other God. None. For the Lord, and they even said, whose name, his name implies that he is jealous, is a jealous God. Nothing else comes before God. If anything else comes before God in your life, I don't know what to say. Should I tell you you're wasting your time? If anything else comes before God? Because that says God is jealous. Do not worship anything. Nothing. Nada. He's a jealous God. It's kind of like that. No other God, have no other God thing before me. You know, you've heard about it. What do you think that means? Well, in the time that Moses was speaking these words, it might have meant a golden calf. You know, the Israelites made themselves a golden calf one time to worship. Or a wooden statue of some sort. It could have been any manner of things that the Israelites bowed down to and worshiped. Well, for us, I don't ever recall seeing somebody worship a golden calf. You know, that's not too common. You know, there are still some religions in the world that do bow down to sculptures and statues and stuff like that. But see, we've got our things too. I heard a report the other day that some young people are developing an extra piece of bone on the back of their skull. And it's usually only happens in older people. And you know why they say it's happening? That's it. We bow down to Android and Apple. Don't tell me how many hours I spend every day on that thing. We bow down to it. Those cell phones that most of you have in your pocket. Don't tell me you don't worship those things. The latest model comes out and it's a frenzy to get there, you know. We can't wait. I've made the statement myself, how did we ever live without it? We worship. And if you say we don't, then you're in the minority in this country. You see, it doesn't have to be some kind of statue. It can be anything that we worship. It can be anything. Anything that takes our attention away from God and onto something else becomes our worship. I remember years ago saying, show me your checkbook and I'll show you what you worship. Of course, people don't even have checkbooks anymore. Anything that takes our attention away from God is detrimental to our person. And it can easily destroy our relationship with Jesus Christ. Last slide. Here's the good news. You knew there had to be some good news in this, right? God is a God of reconciliation. He doesn't want to destroy us. That's the last thing that he wants to do. I've always loved a good comeback in sports. I mean, how many people love to watch a comeback? I'll get on YouTube sometime. If you just type in great sports comebacks, and you can find some stuff. One of the greatest ever, I think, was old George Foreman. Anybody remember George Foreman, the boxer? Yeah, there's some people here, George Foreman. Remember, he was 45 years old. Now that's ancient. But in the sports world, that is ancient. He was 45 years old when he squared off against Michael Moore, who was 26. Now, if I remember right, at about 45 years old is when I began to feel the effects of aging. Somewhere along in there, 40, 45 years old, begin to get up a little stiff. He fought Michael Moore. He was 26, who had a 35-0 record. He had never lost a fight. Out of those 35 fights, Michael Moore had 30 knockouts. And they began to fight, and George Foreman looked every bit of that 45 years old. He was losing the fight by every judge's card said that Moore was winning. But he made it to the 10th round. And all of a sudden, a little right hand right on that kid's point of that chin. He was out. It was all over with. George Foreman had achieved what many call the impossible dream. I love those kind of stories. But you know what I love even more? You know what I love even more than a good sports comeback? Is a person who comes back to God after their life has drifted in the other direction. Deuteronomy 30:19 says in our text, now call from heaven and earth to witness the choices you made. And here's what I think Moses says. You know, it says, oh, that you would choose life. It probably wasn't like that. It was probably Moses saying, "Oh, that you would choose life." So that you and your descendants might live. See, this wasn't like a call to non-believers that we make when we have our invitation time at the end of the service. Moses was calling out to this people to recommit to what they believed. See, they'd already been through the desert. They had already been through all the stuff with God. They had the hunger, they had the thirst, they had all the problems, and they had seen the Lord provide. And sometimes they had rejoiced, and sometimes they had grumbled. But they had gotten to this point. They got to this point about ready to cross over into the promised land by following God. And now Moses is saying, you've got to make a decision. Before you go off into the promised land, you've got to make this decision. Because he knew that when they got in there, they'd have their own families and they'd get their own properties. And he knew it would be so easy for them to fall into the worship of other gods in the land that the Lord was giving. So Moses was saying, you need to commit. You need to make a commitment today. And you need to make the right choice so that you can live. God wants to see us restored. Even though through Jesus, God intended reconciliation with his people. Colossians 1:20 says, and through him God reconciled everything to himself. He made peace with everything in heaven and on earth by means of Christ's blood on the cross. That's what God always wanted. For us to be reconciled to him. He wants you back. He wants us all back. You know, this whole thing is about having a healthy relationship with God. I want to ask you, are you in that relationship today? There's a common cycle among people that I went through. I know that a lot of you went through this. You went to church with your parents. You grew up with your parents in church. You grew up in church. You never missed a Sunday. But then you became a young adult and you decided, hey, you figured out, hey, I don't have to do this anymore. I can sleep in. And you drifted away, and the lures of this world pulled you away, and they directed you toward a life that probably seemed appealing at the time, but you didn't really want. And then you grew up and you got a family, and you once again saw the need for the church and a personal relationship with the Lord, even though you had one before. Even though you had that before, and you may have been active before, there is a season to recommit. There's the time to say, Lord, I've been complacent. I've just rolled along with the crowd. And now you're guiding me into your service. When we first moved to Wyoming, I promised Mackenzie that we would go on a trail ride. So we went there and we moved up there, and when we first got there, she started begging to ride horses and go on a trail ride. Well, none of the people wound up in the church had any horses or anything, so I had to go and pay for us to go on a trail ride. Now that trail that we went on was basically up the side of a mountain. It was really steep, and I thought a little dangerous. And there was a girl who led us up the trail, and she had Mackenzie to ride right behind her. And as we were going up the trail, she got the reins and just led her horse up the trail. So coming back down, Mackenzie, she thought she could ride a horse better, and she asked the girl for the reins, and the girl just gave it to her, let her ride and follow along. Anyway, by the time we got down to the bottom of the hill, Mackenzie was convinced that she was an expert equestrian. She really didn't know that the horse she was riding, really all it knew was to follow the horse in front of it. That was all it was basically going to do. A lot of us go through our years in a Christian life following the horse in front of us. We make friends in the church, we just kind of band together, and we do whatever they do. Those Israelites have been following each other around for 40 years. But now Moses was calling them to commit. Moses was calling them to experience something that they had never experienced before. Today I believe God's calling you. Today I believe God is calling this church to something new, something that you may have never experienced before. I think that God is wanting to see some of you come out of the shadows. I think that maybe you've just been following long enough and He wants you to see you lead for a while. If you feel as though you've just been riding the wave, that God has more for you, ask you to come. Come pray with me. Come pray to make that recommitment. Or maybe God's calling you to the first time commitment. Whatever the case may be. Today we're standing. We're standing at the Jordan River. And we're looking into the Promised Land. Before we go there, we've got to have people commit to serve God with everything that you have. To do things that you've never done before. Let's come and pray as we sing.